So anyone who's interested has a question for one of our panelists, if you could line up by the microphone. I ask that you limit it to one question so that everybody who has a question can have a chance. But if you want to circle around and get back in line for a second question, that's fair. So yes, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Rich Fritzen. I'm from Mainline Unitarian Church in Devon. And question for Karen and Mary. I had heard, I actually expected you to talk about something called Wellspring, a spiritually intensive class that I thought you would have associated with keeping members and getting them more deeply involved, and you didn't name it. Am I confused about who does Wellspring?
Wellspring is an even deeper commitment as part of our adult spiritual development. So what we try to get people into immediately, in our opinion, you need to work your way into Wellspring. So we we ask people take Soul Matters for a year, which is our covenant group written by my husband and co-senior minister who writes them based on our worship themes every month. So we have like 300 people in our Soul Matters groups, which are larger conversations around those monthly worship themes. And the opportunity to be able to do spiritual assignments based on them along with a whole month of intensively thinking about them. So Wellspring is kind of like Soul Matters on steroids. And it really, and the program started at First Unitarian with Reverend Jen Crow, who has built that curriculum with a number of other lay people. And they have offered that to, I think they're up to like 17 other congregations in our denomination now that are using Wellspring. But Wellspring has the added component of saying, so you want, what we're trying to get people to is the opportunity to be able to grow into their kind of spiritual wholeness and grounding at every stage of the game. And so Wellspring is, you have a spiritual director that you work with. They meet, I think often 2 times a week. It's very intensive. Whereas Soul Matters, which is what we're just getting new people into, is a once a month meeting with an assignment that they have and reading based on that. So that's just the extension of that.
Thanks.
And Wellspring is, if you pick up the graphics that I showed, it's on there. We just hit the high points for the purposes of this program, but thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Hi, Kurt Jensen from UU Congregation of Fairfax in Oakton, Virginia. This is for the Rochester folks. When you mention these restart classes or restart things for experienced members, did you get a lot of pushback, resistance, or not? I was kind of curious about that.
So we are just moving, as I said, it's like where we want to go. So we are just starting to ask seasoned leaders to do restart. And we're trying to frame it in a way that this is, if you have this whole group of people, when you have, so our net growth has been 300 people, but when you look at the last 7 years, we've had 550 new members. So they're all on this other operating system. And then you got these leaders over here who are on a different system, and we need everybody to be on the same page, right? We're kind of pitching it like, it not only will be useful for you to be able to understand what these new people are coming in with their own questions, but also will be a grounding, really wonderful experience for you as well. And really when you pitch it that way, like, they have a lot of fun. People are on fire after starting point. I'm always amazed by that, but I love doing the classes, because even like the last time I had this group of 5 guys all in their early 30s, and they're all just bawling after talking about this spiritual assignment. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool, you know. But so I think for other people too who have been around to be able to witness that, see the excitement of new people about why they're coming in, why this place matters to them, it gets them re-energized about being there as well. So,
thank you. Next. Name and congregation.
Mary, you talked a lot about, and Reverend Anderson, about touch points, finding out why people are leaving, watching the back door, barring the back door maybe. And I'd just like and I know it's a pretty long question, but if you can touch on some of those things, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I don't think we have the answer to that. I wish we could do more. I think the key there is you're not forgotten once you sign the membership book. So whatever you can come up with, and I've heard of brilliant things that people are doing. I've heard of anniversary calls when, the first anniversary of your, not their wedding anniversary, but the first anniversary of your joining, that you call up and say, I'm so glad you're with us. Just, a small thing like that. Our surveys that we do following up at about maybe 6 months to a year are very extensive, and they're very personal, and they're sort of very deep about their commitment to the church. So it's a real conversation that, we're reaching out to them and saying we care about you. It's not just a letter or a survey that they could complete online. So I think the more personal, the better. I think the smaller churches may do this better in some ways than the larger churches, just because they know people and they can say, well, who hasn't been around, or who have we not seen, and those are wonderful touch points. I did hear an interesting suggestion yesterday. I think it was from Mark Bernstein of Surge, or he had heard it or something, that there are cards that are given out in the service, and the minister asks folks to, if you haven't seen anybody around, or you think there's somebody that's been drifting away, could you write their name down on the card and hand it in with the collection plate so that we have a chance to reach out? So in a larger congregation, something like that is pretty essential, because we do depend on word of mouth and people telling us. So I don't have the answers. I'm sure maybe other people have suggestions or comments that they want to kind of line up. They can offer those as well. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Name and congregation.
I'm Betty Robinson from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Charlotte. And we are a big congregation now, but when I came to Charlotte a long time ago, it was not considered very big, and it went right up, and then it went back down again. And unfortunately, we don't have a good lock on the back door. And I want to know if you have anything specific that you do to keep all these wonderful people that join to stay there.
I would say if you can look at your whole process, that's why it was very helpful to do this work with that book, Simple Church, because it pulled everything out in front of you to say, okay, where are the times that we think we're hooking people, and then do hard numbers on things. You have no idea where people are going. We're just doing like guesses, right? About, I got somebody here in September, and then they're gone in January. Well, what happened in between there? And I think often we don't want to do the numbers because we're afraid of looking at the numbers. And in truth, the numbers are what's going to help you get better at being able to look at the back door. In particular for us, what we really found is we got them into journey groups, but then if for some reason the group didn't work well, then they slipped out, then we're not calling them again until 6 months or a year later, and it was too late. So that was just one example of like, oh, we got to do better with that. So we actually have a hired position now that's one of their complete jobs, is making sure, doing all those conversations with people, like continually checking in. How's the group going? Is it working out for you? What do you need? And then we set those people up in front of new people in order to say, if you have any problem, I don't care if you're in some group, you thought it was going to be awesome and it sucks, which happens sometimes, then people are embarrassed, like, oh, I don't even want to tell anybody that was, because they don't want to offend somebody, but you could lose them because of that. So you got to go back and have ongoing conversations until they are really stuck, until they're kind of in that leadership piece. Does that make sense?
But how do you get people to do that unless you have a good written thing? Does that come with your
We put all our eggs in the basket of they have to be in a journey group. We have almost everybody who is new in a journey group because it's that way to be able to sustain them in a large congregation where they have 8 to 10 people that they know each other's lives, they care about each other. We have found actually that they are the best with pastoral support to anybody. Our small groups now are becoming the best pastoral support to anybody else. Even they will call people there before they call the ministers.
Thank you. Your name and congregation, please.
Hi, Christine Smith from the UU Congregation of Binghamton, New York. My question is, I went to the workshop before this that was for the mid-size, and I came to this one. And one thing that I didn't hear from anyone that I think we are going to experience as we continue our growth is building growing pains. And I want to know if you guys had any trouble with that and how you got around it or, worked with it.
You're talking about physical plant? Yep. Yeah, I don't have experience in Columbus. I don't have a building plant experience in a large church. You're going to have some, but you're also going to build something, and, that old adage, you build it and they will come. If you have a mission that brings them through the door, or the building will get them through the door, but the mission will keep them there if you give them ways to engage the mission. And I think that's what we're trying to talk about as much as anything else, ways to help people catch fire.
The other thing is we've gotten creative about our building. So we had 2 services. The first one didn't have any children at all because there was no RE and no choir. I don't know why nobody attended that first service. But after some really obnoxious member stepped forward and said, you might want to think about this, we do have both of those things now. And so we have started to shift how many children are at the second service versus the first service. And so we are using the same space, but we're using it differently. And we are also using neighboring space differently. So there's a Panera in our front parking lot now, and there are times when our youth group meets during the Sunday service actually at the Panera. So your building is never a constraint for your growth until you make it that. There is always a way to make it work. You just have to get creative. And then you have to put the pain where it belongs, which is within the membership, so that you can do the capital campaign and fix the building. Because you do have to fix the building at some point. And Columbus did that. They in 93, they made a huge new sanctuary, and it made a large difference for the congregation.
Thank you. We have one last question. What's your name and congregation, please?
Steve Crump. I serve as minister in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Thank you for this wonderful workshop. Could each congregation respond to the question that I think we have in Baton Rouge? Those who find themselves really comfortable in the covenant small group, but need a little nudge to move to the next step. They're really comfortable. They love the support. They love the conversation. They love the attention, but haven't quite signed the membership. For some people, how do we nudge them gently?
I do that. I don't know how gentle it is, but I work with our I'm not quite that bad. I work with our director of lay ministries who supervises our small group ministry, and I ask her, she keeps the list of all the members of the small group. We go back and we go over the list together and we see who in the past year has taken advantage and been regular partakers of small group ministry and have not joined the church yet. And I have created a very nice, I thought, communication that goes out to all these people. We talk about the move from consumer to investor. And that was the language that Karen kind of introduced in our Path to Membership class, and the idea that, you start out by being a consumer and you want to grab all these things and they're so wonderful and you kind of take them in, but then there comes a point when you have to think about how you're going to invest in the church that makes these programs possible. So I guess it's maybe guilting them a little. And, I've had responses all over the map. I've had positive responses. Yes, you're absolutely right. I'm going to sign the book. And I've had people say, I'm sorry, I'm just not ready yet. So I put them on my radar screen for the 3 months down the road. So I don't let them go away. I just put them in a tickler file, and I know I'll be contacting them again.
I would just add real quick, one of the things that we say to people in UU 201, I don't want you to join this church if you drive by and you see First Unitarian and you say to yourself, I go to that church. If the difference is you start driving by and you say, you know what, that's my church, then I want you to join. But not until then. So that for us is more like an internal feeling of like ownership, and that you want to be a part of what it is that we create together. Again, it's a consumer investor model, but it helps people really kind of wrap their head around why does it matter to join.
Well, that's our time. It's straight up 4 o'clock. Again, there's some handouts on the back showing the Listen, Open, Serve model that Rochester has. There's a few hard copies up here. If you need the Surge website, I have some business cards with that on there. This will be posted there. The PowerPoints will be posted there, and links to some of the resources mentioned today. So thank you.